Here with the here's the film's director and narrator, Dinesh D'Souza. He's in much better shape than either Michael Moore or Al Gore, by the way. He's also president of the King's College. Welcome to the program, Dinesh.
Hey, good to be on the show.
Hey, man, big weekend for you. Jeez.
Wow.
Super excited. I mean, I think it shows really that there's a real hunger for information. People feel like they don't have the truth about Obama, in some senses that the media has been withholding it from them. And I think second, there's a sense among people that the American dream is at stake, that this American era that began in 1945 may be winding to a close, and it could be that Obama is not just presiding over American decline, he's the architect of it.
Now, Dinesh, we talked to you, I think, last week or the week before on the radio program, and we mentioned at the time, and I think it's even more applicable now as we get closer to the election and all the rhetoric is being ratcheted up. What I loved so much about this movie was that it's such a, I guess, an even-handed look at it. It doesn't seem like you're really trying to take Obama apart. It just seems like you're trying to tell who this guy is and give us an idea about his background and where he's coming from for those of us who just can't figure the guy out. Is that kind of the approach you went into the movie with?
Well, I'm the president of the King's College, which is a Christian college in New York City. And this film is not a sort of bash Obama film. It's really a lift the curtain so you can see who Obama really is kind of film.
Right. In
some ways, I think some people come out of the film and they say, look, I almost feel a little bit sorry for Obama. His parents were major weirdos. They both abandoned him. I mean, the father abandoned him at birth. The mother abandoned him when he was 10. So this poor kid, insecure, at the time overweight, was trying to find himself in the world. And he sort of found this extremist radical ideology, and he grabbed onto it thinking, this is a precious possession I've got from my dad. Let me hang on to it like jewels. And so in some ways you can almost leave the film saying, I feel a bit sorry for Obama, but you know, I'm really not sure I want him acting out his problems on the world stage.
No, I don't either. But even if you don't feel sorry, what I think it gives you is a perspective on this guy had no chance to feel about America the way the rest of us do. He grew up different than that. He grew up with parents who didn't feel the way about America my parents felt, and probably yours, and certainly Stu's and Glenn's. He grew up with a communist mentor. He grew up with an anti-colonial father. He had all of these issues to deal with as he grew up. Well, what chance did he have?
Well, this is the funny thing that the liberals are now saying, Dinesh, well, you're making Obama seem like he's different, like he's somehow the other and so on. And I say, wait a minute, guys, you are the champions of Obama. You started by telling us that he's multicultural, he's different, he hasn't had the same background as everyone else. And all we do in the film, and by the way, I have a new book which does it in even greater length, Obama's America, is I say, guys, all right, let me show you how multicultural he really is. Let's show you what difference in his case means. That he has been associating with some fairly radical characters, a Brazilian socialist at Harvard, a member of the Palestine National Council, Edward Said, who's been called a professor of terror. So, and these are not people Obama bumped into. He sought them out. Obama's founding fathers are people, for the most part, that he chose because he felt that these are guys who resembled his dad.
Yeah, and one of the biggest stories on The Blaze today was a clip of Chris Matthews, you know, being an idiot, as Chris Matthews usually is, but saying that he can see how the Republicans are trying to hang this name, Barack Obama, which you can't do anything about, over him to make him look, you know, sort of foreign. And, you know, first of all, Barack Obama is the guy who changed his name when he was Barry the entire time. He changed it to Barack because he wanted to accentuate that and, you know, be honest to who he thought he was. And it's funny because, you know, you know, Pat, you said this on the radio the other day, and I understand kind of giving him the break of that he didn't have the chance to really appreciate America. And that's obviously true, but Dinesh, your story is told in this movie as well, and a lot of people would say the same thing about you. You didn't grow up here. You came here from India, but you were able to see the greatness of America at a very early age. What was the difference there, do you think?
Well, see, in my case, I've lived out the immigrant dream, right, which is to come to America. And because I'm a writer, a scholar, I've studied and thought about what makes America unique. And I think that the immigrant, the thoughtful immigrant, is actually in a position to understand America better. Why? Because you have a basis of comparison. You've grown up in some other society, and so you have a reference point to see the things that Americans take for granted are actually quite unique in the world. I think what is blinding Obama is not the fact that he's a foreigner. He's not. But while I'm a third world guy who's embraced America, Obama is an American-born guy who has sort of vicariously embraced this third world ideology. Now, his actual understanding of the third world is pathetic. He doesn't know a whole lot. His brother, George Obama, living in the Huruma slum of Nairobi, knows a lot more about Kenya than Barack Obama. But Obama has this sort of idea of what it means to be a third world guy. And, of course, he wants the love of the father that he never got. And I think as a result, he's captive to an ideology that's actually doing a lot of damage both to America and to poor people around the world.
And Dinesh, you bring up Barack's brother, George, who is interesting because he lived in a hut outside of Nairobi on 75 cents a month. And you went over and interviewed him, and apparently you kind of developed a relationship with him because he felt comfortable enough with you. You told the story, I think, last week, that he called you when his son was sick and asked you for money. Share that story with us.
Well, I got a phone call from George Obama, and George said, you know, I'm at the hospital, and my 2-year-old is sick with a chest condition. I don't have any money. Can you please send me some money, $1,000? And I was suspicious because I know George lives in some tough streets and tough neighborhood. So I said, George, are you really at the hospital? Hand the phone over to the nurse. But once I confirmed that this was true, that George was at the hospital and that his son was sick, I said, all right, George, I'm happy to help you out. I'll send you the money by Western Union. But before I hung up, I said, let me ask you a question. Why are you calling me? Isn't there somebody else you can call? And kind of amazingly, George said, no. He said, and he said to me, he says, you're like a brother to me. And I'm thinking, wow, here I am, you know, a conservative writer, a thinker. And George Obama happens to be the half-brother of the man who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, who's a multimillionaire and the most powerful man in the world, who happens to have an ideology that says that we owe obligations to the less fortunate, one of whose favorite phrases happens to be from the Bible, we are our brother's keeper. So what does this say about Barack Obama, that he has these standards but doesn't apply them to himself? It's almost like our money is his and his money is his.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
Amazing. An amazing window into Barack Obama and how he makes decisions. Dinesh D'Souza, thank you very much. 2016 is in theaters. Obama's America is in bookstores. You gotta understand the foundation before you can really make your decision in November.